My pores are clear. My crops are watered. I've given my fucking soul to the dance. I'm ready to sell Luca Guadagnino my firstborn child.
You're living with dangerous people.
Suspiria is directed by Luca Guadagnino, the director of Call Me By Your Name, and it stars Dakota Johnson and Tilda Swinton and Mia Goth and Tilda Swinton and Chloe Grace Moretz and Tilda Swinton. It tells the story of a young American exchange student, Susie Banyan, who's a Mennonite from Ohio, and she comes to Germany to a prestigious dance academy to dance with some of the best. And turns out that dance academy is a coven of witches. I'm hesitant to call this a remake, because
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
It really isn't a remake. It's more of a reimagining, if anything, and it's a complete reinvention of Dario Argento's Suspiria, with the only real similarities being the character names and the fact that it's a dance academy of witches, and everything else is completely Luca Guadagnino's vision. There was a lot of skepticism going into this film, because honestly, how do you recreate something that is A, as iconic as the original Suspiria, B, as artistically adventurous as the original Suspiria? It's like you can't replicate what Argento did there. You can't replicate the colors. You can't replicate the soundscape. That's the kind of thing that you can't really recreate in any way. Otherwise, because you're either going to be doing what Gus Van Sant did with Psycho and just making a shot-for-shot remake that is going to pale in comparison.
That was an absolute travesty.
Right. Or you're going to do something so different that
alienate a lot of people.
You're going to alienate a lot of people, and you're going to lose what made the original what it was. That was pretty much the mindset of everybody before trailers dropped, and then trailers dropped, and there was a lot of people impressed by it, and it became quickly one of my most hyped movies of the year. And
given the track record with most hyped movies of the year,
yeah, it's been a disappointing year, guys, between Halloween and The Nun and Predator and a couple other things.
It's like a bad breakup. It still pains me when we say Halloween and that it was bad. Like, it's still like...
And I mean, I said it to you after Halloween. I was like, if Suspiria disappoints me even half as much as Halloween did, I might cry. Mm-hmm. And I did cry, but for different reasons. Suspiria was literally everything I wanted it to be and more, and the more I think about it... First, for the record, I'm reviewing this after seeing it twice now. The more I think about it, the more I fall in love with it, and the better it gets for me. I can't stop thinking about it. It has not left my head since I saw it. I have a lot to unload. There's not going to be much scripting here. I'm going to just be rambling because I'm very excited, and I'm a little turned on, and I'm very happy. It really hasn't left my brain. There are certain bits of imagery and certain sequences in this movie that just will never leave my head in the best way possible. And I loved it so much, I want to marry it.
I saw the original Suspiria years ago for the first time, and I liked it. It was very artsy. I'm not really too much of an artsy guy, you know this. I don't have any class, so it was a very pretty movie, like I called it. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It was a solid movie. It kept me entertained. But this was really good. This was very, like, again, still artsy. I'd say way more artsy than
in a different way.
Still kept me hooked. Did not feel 2.5 hours long, even though it was 2.5 hours long.
It is 2.5 hours long.
Kept me hooked through the whole thing, through and through. There's not really much I can say about it, because again, I don't have all the trivia. Normally when I chip in with the trivia or stuff, when you have me on for Halloween or Friday the 13th and stuff like that.
You know all the details.
Yeah, but I can just say it's just a solid horror movie with twists and turns and just...
a lot of emotion.
A lot of emotion. I got choked up at a couple parts.
Same here.
There was a couple parts where I started getting... No, normally where I'd be cracking bad jokes that make nobody laugh at this point, I don't have that right now. There was nothing to make fun of. I can't say anything bad. There was nothing to, like...
I don't want to draw too many comparisons to the original because, like I said, it is very different in terms of just about everything. It goes wildly to the end of the spectrum on just about every level. You have the Goblin score from the original, just the crazy Italian prog rock. This movie went to the other end of the spectrum, and Tom York did a really cold, ambient, like, oppressive, emotional score.
If there was a band to make this score. I know Radiohead had nothing to do with it. It was
just Tom York, but still. There's a lot less of the crazy color scheme in this movie. It's a lot of grays and muted colors, which actually fits really well considering the setting of 1970s Berlin. post-war and everything is divided and depressing and sad. There's not really anything in this movie where he was trying to best Argento or replicate Argento. He was really just making his own unique vision the whole time. And I really respect that, and I really appreciated it, and it really gave this movie the ability to totally stand on its own.
He didn't try to be Argento, he told Argento's story.
Yeah, but in his own completely different way, and I love that. This movie totally stands on its own, and like I said, I don't want to compare it too much to the original, past the certain points that I made. It has a really nice 70s aesthetic to it. There's a lot of really cool Kubrickian-style camera zooms. There's a lot of really unique cinematography that feels kind of like British/Italian conventions. There are several shots in this movie, there are several camera techniques in this movie that remind me of Don't Look Now, and it's a very interesting style that you don't see a lot of anymore, and I appreciate that as well. The one comparison that I really do want to make to this to the original is that there's dancing in this movie. The original takes place at a dance academy, and there is literally one scene involving dancing in the original, and Susie passes out 2 minutes into it. This movie focuses entirely on the dancing, and my god, it's amazing. I'm not one to usually acknowledge this, but the choreography in this movie is ridiculously good, and ridiculously impassioned and emotional and raw.
That's definitely one of the more artsy points of the movie, I feel like, is the dancing itself.
It is. It's very distinct. Like, I've never seen dancing of this style. It's very expressionist, and it's really,
I mean, when I think dancing, I think of, like, the twist.
Expressionistic, I think, is the best way to put it.
Put it like that.
It's a unique style that I don't know if it was invented for the movie or it was based on a style from that time, but the entire story behind the dancing in this movie is that it was created, specifically the main dance that they do, Volk, was created as a means of expressing during the really bleak times of the Holocaust and Nazi Germany, and that entire performance is kind of what established the Academy and what got them through and helped women really to express themselves in a time when the Third Reich was happening. I just fucking love the dance sequences in this movie, man. Like,
I love the whole movie.
I did love the whole movie, but the specifically the scene toward the third act, or I guess the fifth act, there's 6 acts in this movie and an epilogue. The actual sequence where they're dancing Volk for an audience is one of the most captivating, hypnotic, really fucking nuts things I've seen in a movie.
Not to mention what's going on during when that's
yeah, there's a bunch of other shit happening during that scene involving crazy witchcraft, but just the visuals of the dancing alone, I was like staring wide-eyed and slack-jawed at the screen because it's kind of hypnotic in a way, and it's really fucking well done. Dakota Johnson's great. Like, really great. I love her performance as Susie.
So is Tilda Swinton. And Tilda Swinton.
And Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton plays 3 fucking parts in this movie, one of whom is an old man who actually was only... This was only revealed, like, a week ago or 2, because for several months leading up to it, not that people caught on, but, like, for several months leading up to the release of this movie, they invented a fake person who was a German actual psychologist who they just cast in this movie to play the part of Dr. Kemper, but it's Tilda Swinton in very heavy makeup, but they created a fake IMDb page and a fake backstory and a fake actor to play a part that Tilda Swinton was playing. So Tilda Swinton was playing an actor playing a part, which is really cool, and she's very method and very strange, and she wore a fake penis all the time while playing him. And that's cool, and I love it, and the character is amazing, and serves as an audience surrogate to all the crazy shit going on. Shout out to Mia Goth for being awesome as Sarah. Shout out to Chloe Grace Moretz for being awesome as Patricia, even though her German's a little sloppy at times. That's okay. I don't really fucking care. Cinematography is fucking stellar. Tom York's score is fucking stellar and really, like, just helps add so much texture to the atmosphere of divided Berlin in the 70s when there's terrorist attacks and just overall oppression everywhere. The general fucking mise-en-scène over the whole movie is fantastic, and I love it. There's so much going on thematically. There's so much going on the deeper levels of this movie. Like, the story on a surface level is fucking excellent already. And then you have all the shit happening underneath and all the deep dive stuff that I really want to get into. But I can't get too into without spoiler heavy shit. And I'm not going to do that in this video. But I will say that without getting spoilery, I want to talk about some of the really cool themes that I liked real quick. I just wanted to know if you have anything else you wanted to add.
It was good. Whereas this would be the normal time where this would be the time that I would launch off into some tangent about how this was a train wreck on a train wreck on a train wreck. It wasn't. It's a damn good movie. There are some people out there that probably might not like it.
I have no doubt in my mind there are going to be people who fucking hate it.
If you're not a fan of artsy-fartsy horror, you're probably going to have an issue with it, but...
Yeah, pretty much.
Look at me. I'm the farthest thing from someone who you'd expect to like artsy things.
I will say this. Without getting spoilery, there is a scene in this movie.
There's actually many of them.
It's actually an entire sequence of scenes. That's what a movie is. It's a sequence of events that you string together and to form a cohesive narrative. But also, there's a scene in this movie that is one of the most gruesome things I've seen in a film in a while. I won't say, like I said, I will not spoil the details of it or anything aside from the words human pretzel. That's about all I will say. It is fucking grotesque and amazing. That scene was discussed. That was the first scene. That was the first footage that was shown of the movie. Oh. That scene. It was shown at CinemaCon back in, I want to say, April. And it was only shown to people who were there. They didn't release the footage of it. But people who were there were tweeting about it and building all this hype to it. And I was like, there's no way it's going to live up to the hype. And then I saw it and I was like, oh God.
Oh, it do.
It's all practical, too.
Ooh, yeah,
the actress is just a really skilled... The actress is just a really skilled contortionist. And it's really fucking gnarly. That's kind of the best way I can describe a lot of this movie, is just like gnarly and grotesque.
And artsy.
Artsy, very artsy. Like
nartsy.
Very art house. But it's really just like grotesque, and a lot of the runtime, it's the kind of movie where you're like, you feel like you're watching something you shouldn't be watching, and something feels wrong, and it's just building and building and building, and then the finale happens, and the finale is some of the most insane shit I've seen in a movie in a while. And I loved it so much. It's really gross and really crazy, and just wow. Honestly, like, when I'm not joking when I say the first time I saw it, like, it got to the whole finale sequence, and I was like sitting up in my chair, like, it was an experience, and I was like giddy. It made me so happy because this movie goes off the rails in the best way. Hey, what would you rate this movie?
Must see.
You want to elaborate on that, or are you just gonna?
You got it. I would. If you have 2.5 hours that you don't have something to fill in your day, go see it. It's gonna keep you enthralled. It's gonna disgust you. It's gonna make you think. It's gonna warp your mind. It's gonna give you visuals you've never seen before. You're gonna see a horror movie. It's gonna make you feel unsettled.
And uncomfortable.
That's the word I was looking for. It's gonna be a good, if you like horror movies, it's gonna be a good time.
It's an uncomfortable movie, I can say that much. Honestly, like I said, this is everything I wanted it to be and more. I wanted to cry. The second viewing, I did cry. It's masterfully made, and emotional and powerful and grotesque and uncomfortable, and really just the kind of film you need to experience. This is a movie that, from a filmmaking perspective, is next level to the point where I was floored, and there's not a single thing about it that I did not like. So I'm going to say that Suspiria is 100% a genre masterpiece. It is breathtakingly beautiful and really fucking unapologetically weird, and I love that about it. I want to see it many more times. Honestly, the fact that this is like a really long art horror movie, and the fact that you're saying you would watch it again, that says a lot to me personally.
Because he knows me. He knows I'm trash. He knows I have no taste. He knows I duct tape my garbage cans together instead of getting a new one.
It's really good, guys. Like, I can't recommend it enough. If you're a fan of artsy horror, if you're a fan of filmmaking in general, this is the kind of movie you need to see. Like, you need to fucking see it. If you like cinema, you need to see this. I'm not the kind of person who focuses on thematics in a movie generally. I mean, I acknowledge and appreciate them, but I don't tend to talk about them because they're not things that everybody appreciates, I guess, or things that everyone looks for, if that makes sense. My viewing experience varies depending on what I'm watching. But for a movie like this, specifically, I need to talk about this because the way it explores certain concepts, specifically feminism and the matriarchy versus patriarchy, is fascinating, and there's not any other movie I've seen that addresses that concept the way this one does. And I love that, and I think that's really fucking important, especially in this day and age. First off, I mean, I just wanted to say I love everything involving Dr. Kemper and the fact that his character kind of functions as the audience, the person who you're witnessing all of this happen through. The fact that he's existing in 1970s Berlin where everything is divided and all the political anarchy happening outside of the academy is purposefully mirroring all of the shit happening inside the academy with a certain schism and all of the violence. It's a really cool choice to have both of those things running parallel. I think that's really interesting. But like I was saying back on the topic of, matriarchy versus patriarchy, etc., I think that it's interesting that this movie has a much more positive view of patriarchy than a feminist film could be if it was going for the more lowest common denominator outlook on it. Like, it would be easy for a film like this to just go, oh yeah, men suck, fucking the patriarchy's ruining everything. And I mean, in a way, it kind of acknowledges that patriarchal society is not good, but it acknowledges that that problem is societal and not interpersonal, and that is really optimistic, and I appreciated that. The fact that Dr. Kemper is a decent human being, he's treated as a male character who is very attentive and very in tune with the women who he's haunted by, and the women who who are in his care or were in his care. Even if he doesn't fully believe them, which again goes back to the whole idea of patriarchal society having issues, he genuinely does care about them. And I think it almost pushes the idea that the only way to get a truly well-functioning society is to have a hand-in-hand co-op between matriarchal and patriarchal, if that makes sense. Because, obviously, shit ain't working super well in the Coven, even though it is focused on protecting women from the horrors of the outside world. There's violence happening to them amongst themselves inside. So, I really dug that from a feminist perspective, from a filmmaking perspective, from just a critical perspective. Everything about it is really fucking important, and it's the kind of movie that I feel more people who want to make films about this sort of thing should pay attention to. It's a perspective that I've really never seen on film before. In terms of messages that a film is delivering, I've never seen one delivered quite like this, if that makes sense.
Hit the nail on the head, saying with the optimistic factor and everything.
It is weirdly optimistic considering how bleak and depressing this movie is, and I think that's really interesting and really important. It is bold is a good word, actually. That's perfect. Yeah, I really love that, and I can't stress enough how much I loved this movie. It's fantastic, and it's gory, and it's fucking weird, and it's one of the most well-directed films and well-written films I've seen in a long while.
He came out of this movie like me after I saw my first Friday the 13th when I was like...
Oh, I was shook when I first walked out. I was shook. I left and I was just on cloud nine. I was so happy. This, to me, made up for the disappointment of Halloween and more.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see it 12 more times.
Hold him to that.
I'm not going to see it 12 more times, but I'll see it at least 2 more times. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Click down there. There's a link down in the description. If you there's a Patreon link. If you want to support this channel and help us grow and develop, be like these cool people right here and consider becoming patrons, because they're really nice and they gave us money to support us. And even if you don't, I appreciate it anyway. You should
Comment.
still like and comment and subscribe and talk about Suspiria.
Let
because
us know.
I want to talk feminist theory and this movie with you guys, because that would be really cool.
Insult us more, please.
Please insult us more. But also talk to me about feminism and witches in Suspiria, because that is really cool. And this movie's great. And I might do a spoiler talk video on this when I see it again, or with another person. I don't know. I may do a spoiler talk on this movie because there's a lot to fucking unpack. It's very good. It's very well put together. It's thematically strong. It's visually strong. It's filmically strong. I love it. Like, comment, subscribe. Consider donating on Patreon. I love you all. Thank you.